All right, all right. Good morning, good morning. Or it's noontime now, so we're technically in the afternoon. How we doing, Michael? This is Tim Judge, founder of Home Search TV. We have Michael Levy, the principal broker for Grand Lux Realty, and also my home office as well. How we doing today, Michael?
Good, thanks. Hey, Tim, how are you? Good to see you
Great.
again.
Good to
And
be here.
great, it's a beautiful day.
Just some, we'll do some quick stats before we get into the meat of the episode here. But you just updated the website. You want to go over this a little bit?
Yeah, so if you click on our homepage, it's grandluxrealty.com, and you look in that top left corner, you see that little button for value growth in local real estate segments by county. So I update this every month, and I just updated it a week or so ago. This is comparing April of this year with April of last year. And I want to just show you, it compares the units sold in each segment with last year and the price per square foot and the percentage growth or reduction. And so the two segments that I really want to point out are single family homes in Westchester and in Rockland County. Those are the two best performing segments. If you look April of last year, it was 254 units at $391 per square foot on average. And this year, 316 or for $431 per square foot on average. So that is units grew by 24% and price per square foot grew by 10%. So if you're thinking about selling and you're a single family homeowner in Westchester, this is probably a pretty good time to sell. You want to sell when the numbers are up, not when they're down. In Rockland, same thing. Take a look. 80 units sold last year in April, 112 this year for a growth of 40%. And also last year, average price 339 per square foot versus 370 this year, a growth of 9%. So the market is strong. When units are increasing and prices are increasing, is the correct time to be selling. So if you're curious, take a look, grandluxrealty.com, click on that button, value growth in local real estate segments by county. And this is a really good snapshot of the market. You can compare it to what you're looking for or what you have and you're thinking about selling. And of course, any questions, always call me and I'll be happy to explain more how this works and what this is all about. But yeah, good. The market is good. Market is good for
Excellent.
sellers.
Excellent resource. And yes, full of information here. So if you're looking to buy or sell, definitely check out the site,
Right,
Grand
Tim,
Lux Realty.
before you leave this, scroll down so everybody can see Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, and Bronx. Those are the four counties that we're doing here to compare. And when you see a negative number in the growth, that means it's shrinking. So the price per square foot or the units sold is less than it was during the same month a year ago. So some of these are shrinking by quite a bit. And so anyway, this is a good tool for you, and I'm happy to provide that.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
So we
wonderful.
have a special guest today, one of our good friends that shows up to all our meetings um, to help. Let me switch over to his website for us. Why don't you introduce Steven?
Right, Stephen Tyler. Hey, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us. He's a
Good
great home
morning. Good
inspector,
morning.
and I've known him for a number of years now, and always joins us. Super helpful for our agents and for our buyers and sellers. And Stephen, thanks for joining us. Go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell us about your history a little bit.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephen Tyler. I'm with Staten Home Inspections. I retired from my past job, and I figured I'd have to do something with my life. And since I had past architectural experience and working in the field with contractors, I decided to go into the home inspection business. I started this about 17 years ago. I'm still in it. I'm still going strong. Why do we have a home inspectors? It's because things go wrong in a house, then the buyers are not aware of it sometimes. And an inspection goes from the roof all the way down to the foundation. We give a detailed report of what could be wrong. We test everything in the house. We test the heat. We test the hot water. We test the electrical systems. We check all the outlets that are available. We go into the crawl spaces. We go into the attic, and basically we look at the exterior. We see from the siding. We even do look at the shrubbery, how close it is to the house and the roofing. We will give you a detailed report. It usually is anywhere from 60 to 100 pages, depending on how much is wrong with the house. We do each room individually. We list each bedroom separately. We don't just clump everything together as bedrooms or living space. We put everything individual so you'll know which room what we're looking at. So the one of the things that you should be looking at when you buy a house first is to look at the water in the basement, see if there's any signs of it. Sometimes the only way you'll know is by getting out a moisture meter and checking the walls. Sometimes the only way you'll know is by going there while it's raining, you know, to an actual basement area, and that would show up very easily. You just look down at the ground and you'll see the water coming in. One of the things that I notice on houses today are the roofs. A lot of the older roofing, the owners do have their friends come in and they'll put a roof over a roof over a roof, and before you know it, you have 3 layers of roof on there, and each shingle has weight. So when you go into an attic with a lot of roofs on there, you're going to see cracked rafters, etc. So there's things that are picked up that you want to make the buyer aware of. You want to make sure that they're getting a very good report. I'm associated with the New York Metro ASHI in Westchester, and I'm also a certified inspector through the National ASHI. To become certified, you have to have at least 250 inspections behind you. They actually look at your inspections before they will grant you the golden badge. For your protection, you should get a home inspection. Thank you.
That's great, Stephen. You're always so knowledgeable and helpful at our office meetings. So whenever we do our working with buyers, we always recommend that a buyer gets a home inspection when they're getting ready to buy a house. It's also a great time for buyers to really learn about all the different systems in the house and how they all work. It's a great, you want to make sure you know how the hot water or the heat works, so that you don't get in the house and then all of a sudden you're sleeping there and it's not working and you have no idea how to do it. So this is a really great and important idea. Also, having an inspection gives a buyer a feeling of, are the problems with the house resolvable, or are they deal breakers? Are they fatal flaws, or can they be dealt with easily? So, Stephen, in your experience, I know you've done, many, many inspections. What kind of things should buyers really be looking for that are like fatal flaws or reasons not to buy the subject property?
One of the biggest flaws in a house would be the foundation. If you go into a house and the doors are not closing properly and the windows are sticking, you want to go downstairs to see if there's any cracks in the foundation. Could also be settling in the house because one wall might be settling, and it causes the rest of the structure above it to be a little bit off, so that the windows aren't square, the doorways aren't square. Other things are the buried oil tanks outside. A lot of houses in Westchester, they have oil heat, and because of the older houses, they have old oil tanks. What we do is we look to see if there is any old piping coming through the wall, indicating that there might be an outside exterior tank. The problem with buying a house that has an outside exterior tank that hasn't been remediated is, once you buy the house, you buy the problem. So if the county comes by and says your tank is leaking, then it's up to the homeowner, or at the time. Now, it could be, if you find it before you buy the house, then it's the seller's responsibility. But if you buy the house, as soon as you get the report from the town that there's a underground tank on your property, or just say 2 years from now you go to sell the property and the next inspector picks up the underground tank, then it will really be your problem, because they can't sell it with an underground tank in Westchester. They all have to be above ground now. So those are a few of the things. The roofing, your roofs can be a little bit tricky to look at, because some of them you can actually see the damage. You'll see the waviness in the roof, and some of them, they look good, but unless you look down at the shingles and you see where the granules are and you get the age of the shingling, that could be quite expensive depending on the size of the house. That could be those are the big three things. You know, your foundation, your buried oil tank, and your roofing.
Yeah, sometimes I see cracks in the foundation, especially with cinder blocks, where the crack is going vertically and it goes straight through the middle of the cinder block. And
Hmm.
sometimes you see cracks where it looks like a staircase and it kind of goes along the edge of the cinder blocks, across and then down and then across and then down. What's the difference between those two types of foundation cracking?
Well, vertically, that means that the wall is shifted. The weight has come down on one side over here. That would have to be looked at by an engineer. The biggest red flag for me is when I see a horizontal crack in the wall. That means that the outside dirt is pushing all those cinder blocks in, and it's causing this on the inside. It's causing it to crack that way.
Mm.
That means that the wall is now bowed out into the basement. You can actually see that a lot of times in houses. The step crack is another. It's similar to the vertical crack. It means that that's the weakest point is where the joint is as it goes up the wall, and that would have to be looked at also by an engineer. They would be able to tell you the remediation that's needed, whether it has to be dug out, whether it has to be reinforced. There's different ways of doing foundation repairs. You'd have to get a company in that specializes in that. They have helical posts that go down below the foundation that are put in from the outside to actually lift the house and to square it up. And then they would just repair the walls once that was done.
Wow. A lot of times buyers think or hope that they can renegotiate the accepted offer based on the results of the inspection. Some things are kind of seller responsibilities that the seller should pay to resolve prior to the closing. Other things are kind of more so buyer responsibilities that they'll just have to take care of after the closing. Any thoughts on that? Like, what are some things that buyers can typically get sellers to do and pay for, and what are other things that are really more so for buyers' responsibilities?
Well, if your heat is not working or it hasn't been looked at in the last 15 years, and it looks like that the heating system is rusting, sometimes it leaks, and people just don't see the leak after a while. Um, Inside the electrical panel, if you see any burned wires, that means you got to call in an electrician, and he would have to figure out why the load is causing the wires to burn. It could be that they have too much on that circuit. It could be that they have the wrong wiring, or it might be that the homeowner put the wrong circuit breaker in there. Some of the things that I see, if a door is sticking or if a window's sticking, that's just an adjustment to that. If there's cracks in some sheetrock, sometimes it could be a bad patch, it could be a bad taping job, depending on who did the painting. Um, Floors, sometimes older houses, there's always settlement in older houses. So sometimes the floors could be off a little bit, and that's just part of the nature of the beast of how the house has settled over those years. Now, there's no way for me to know if the house is still settling while I'm there for those 3 hours. I'm there like a snapshot in time. I look at the house while I'm there, I write down what I see, and then some other things that could be water penetration in the basement. It could be completely resolved, and then we get one of these 100-year rains, and all of a sudden they're getting water in the basement that they didn't get before. I had to put a sump pump into my basement because of that last 100-year rain. It hasn't come on yet, and I'm waiting for the next 100-year rain, but I don't think I'll be around for that one. But there's different things you can do. There's cosmetic stuff in a house that I point out, like if you see cracks in the wall and you see, I put it down as a minor thing that could be repaired easily. Depending on how handy the buyer is, I usually ask, are you handy? And the reason I ask that is because I could point out minor cracks to him, and he said, oh, I could fix that. I had an electrician go around with me. He was buying a house, and I said, you don't have grounds on there. He goes, oh, don't worry about that, or don't worry about the electrical box. I can fix anything in there. So if it was somebody else, and I pointed out, there's no cover on the electrical outlets, if they have small children that could stick their fingers in there, that could be a big thing. So I ask, do you have small children? How handy are you? This way it gives me an idea to know how to talk to the client. If they're handy, like I am, a lot of things that were in my house I was able to fix.
That's great. Good for you.
Right.
That's a great talent.
Can I
Yeah,
ask
go ahead.
two parts? Things that usually aren't visible to people. One being radon, and the other one being mold. I've experienced a couple of these over the years that I've been doing it. Do you need special certifications to find those, or what's the best way to get that and remediate?
I went to RTCA, which is Radon Testing Corporation of America. We went up there and we took classes for learning where to put the radon, how to set it up, how high it has to be off the floor. You got to know the protocol for setting up radon canisters. I used the canisters. There are two 4-inch canisters. One checks the other. So if the readings come back within, say, a 0.2 of each other, just for argument's sake, say it is over the limit. If it comes in at a 5.2 and a 5.1, then you're pretty sure that those canisters are giving you a correct reading. If one comes in at a 1.0 and the other one is at an 18, then you would take the readings over again. The remediation of that is done by a separate company. I do the testing for that, and I'll give you a company that can do the actual remediation. It's not too expensive. I'm thinking it's in the like 15 to 2,000 ballpark, depending on the size of the house and if they have to put in more than one pump in the basement. It goes by the square foot of how big the basement is. Now, for mold, you need a special license granted by New York State. You have to become a mold tester. Now, you cannot remediate anything that you test, and the testers can't go in. The remediation companies cannot go in and actually do the testing. So they have to have a sort of like a check against each other. You have the tester, right, and then you have the remediator, and then the tester comes back again to make sure that the remediation was done properly and the mold is removed.
Very good. Excellent.
In New York State, the radon may be licensed in the future, but right now it is not.
Okay.
What's the most common flaw you see in a house?
Most common flaw, I would say, would be foundations. If we're going to look for major flaws, you get so many different. Every house has its own personality. It's just like people. It depends on how well the owners take care of them. Mm-hmm. You look at some people, they dress real nice, and you look at some people, you say, wow, he got up in the morning and wore that. The same with houses. You approach a house from the outside, and if I look at the house from the outside and it's nicely painted, the porch is immaculate, the walkway doesn't have any bumps in it, the driveway is just freshly tarred, I feel to myself when I'm walking into this house, oh, this is going to be a nice inspection. And if you go into a house that it's overgrown, the shrubbery's there, the sidewalk's all cracked, the door is ajar on the garage and that won't open, you go to yourself, it's going to be a long inspection. So, right. And I'm sure you see the same thing as a realtor. You walk up to the house and you'll go, oh no. In some houses you go, I like this one. Sure. I was in just a little I was in a condo yesterday. I actually made the remark to the realtor. I said, whoever gets this house is going to have a really nice condo. There was just minor stuff. I think I was only like 3 or 4 things I picked up in the whole inspection. We do condos and we do condominiums, as long as big houses and little houses. Houses are about the 3-hour inspection, depending on the size. Once it goes really big, they get a little bit longer because you're there looking at more stuff. That's about it.
That's great, Stephen. Thank you so much. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys, and hope you have a great weekend.
Stephen, just want to confirm stathomeinspections.com is the best place to reach you through the web. And then 845-521-4144.
That's my cell phone, and that is on me at all times.
Wonderful.
That's
all
great.
Right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen.
If you need real estate advice or information, grandluxrealty.com.
Yes.
You
And
did,
plenty of new
you got a question?
information on there.
Question on houses? Just give me a call. Glad to talk to you.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
See
you
the
so
next
much.
one.
Have a nice day, everybody.
Thank you.